On June 5, 2025, the house on Maple Grove Street in the quiet western suburbs of Houston, Texas, bore witness to a horrific tragedy. Mary Bennett, 50, was brutally murdered in the kitchen, blood pooling across the floor, the fruit knife turned into a deadly weapon. James, her 52-year-old husband, Ethan, her son, Lily, her daughter, and little Emma, her granddaughter, were plunged into grief and panic. Robert, Mary's brother, emerged as the prime suspect after his shoe print matched the muddy trace by the back door and a suspicious text message surfaced. The Houston Police Department, led by Officer Harris, intensified the investigation. Now the case reaches its final chapter: judgment, consequences, and haunting reflections. June 6, 3:00 p.m. The investigation gained momentum. Officer Harris and the forensic team traced the phone number from Robert's 8:20 p.m. text on the night of the crime. "We'll handle it soon." The number belonged to a prepaid, unregistered phone, but location data placed it near Pasadena, where Robert lived, on June 5. Robert, held in custody, faced a tense interrogation. Harris placed the phone on the table, voice cold. "Explain this message, Mr. Dawson." "Handle what?" Robert, sweating, stammered. I texted a friend about a debt, nothing to do with my sister." But his unease and past bar fight in 2023 undermined his credibility. Harris stated, "You have the right to remain silent per your Miranda rights. Anything you say can be used in court." Robert bowed his head. June 8, 9:00 a.m. The forensic team completed their analysis. No foreign DNA was found on the knife or at the scene, only Mary's blood. However, the size 10 shoe print matched Robert's athletic shoes perfectly, and a tiny fiber from his jacket was discovered near the back door, caught in a bush. The autopsy confirmed Mary died around 8:42 p.m. from a deep neck wound, severing the carotid artery, causing rapid blood loss. No defensive wounds suggested a swift surprise attack, possibly by someone known to her. No signs of forced entry reinforced the theory the killer was inside. Robert was formally charged with first-degree murder, a grave offense under Texas law. September 2025. The case went to trial at Harris County Courthouse in Houston. Prosecutor Karen Ortiz presented evidence: the shoe print, the fiber, the suspicious text, and financial tension between Robert and James. Robert Dawson owed James Bennett thousands, causing ongoing strain. "We believe he targeted Mary to pressure his brother-in-law or conceal a deeper motive," Ortiz argued. Robert's defense attorney, David Lee, countered, "No DNA on the knife, no direct witness. My client's 3-year-old niece only said bad person with a knife, unreliable." Though Emma's words weren't used in court, they haunted the family. James, Ethan, and Lily testified, voices breaking. James choked. "Mary was my everything. Robert was her brother. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence." He broke down in tears. October 15, 2025. After 3 weeks, the jury of 12 Houston citizens deliberated. They reviewed forensic evidence, testimonies, and motive. Robert remained silent throughout, his gaze empty. After 10 hours, the jury returned a verdict: Robert Dawson, guilty of first-degree murder. Judge William Carter sentenced him to life without parole per Texas law. As he was led away, Robert turned to James, whispering, "I didn't do it, brother-in-law, I swear." James turned away, tears streaming, silent. Lily clutched Emma, sobbing, while Ethan held his father's hand, eyes burning with anger and pain. Aftermath. The case left deep scars on the Bennett family. James, 52, sank into depression, unable to enter the kitchen without seeing Mary in a pool of blood. He sold the Maple Grove house, moving to a small apartment in Houston's suburbs, trying to escape the horrific memories. Ethan, 28, quit his software job, devoting time to his father. Yet doubt lingered. If not Uncle Robert, then who? Lily, 24, grew wary, installing cameras around her apartment, constantly fearing for Emma. Little Emma, now 3.5, sometimes woke at night, mumbling about the bad person, breaking Lily's heart. Maple Grove, once peaceful, buzzed with whispers of the massacre, neighbors locking doors tighter each night. December 2025, the case gripped U.S. media, covered by the Houston Chronicle and Dateline NBC. Activists pushed for stricter family violence laws in Texas, but no new legislation passed. The community held a memorial for Mary at a nearby park where dozens lit candles, laid flowers, and prayed. Lily, speaking for the family, said, "My mom loved everyone. We lost her, but we'll keep her love forever." The horrifying Houston story became a cautionary tale, reminding all of the fragility of safety, even at home. Reflection. Justice was served. Robert Dawson was convicted, paying for the crime, yet the Bennett's pain endures. James lost his wife of 30 years, Ethan and Lily their mother, and Emma grows up with a faint but haunting memory of that night. The case raises a gnawing question. What drove a loved one, sharing a meal and toasting together, to kill so brutally? Was darkness always lurking in Robert? Or does a hidden truth remain? The house on Maple Grove, once a symbol of the American dream, now holds only memories of a bloody dinner. The most terrifying thought isn't a killer from the shadows outside, but the possibility it came from the place you trust most. Family. Houston and the Bennetts will never forget June 5, 2025, when warm golden lights turned red with tragedy. On the fateful evening of June 5, 2025, in the quiet western suburbs of Houston, Texas, the Bennett family had no inkling that their lives were about to be shattered forever. The house on Maple Grove Street, with its white picket fence and neatly trimmed lawn, epitomized the calm of a middle-class neighborhood. Houston, the largest city in Texas, buzzed with the energy of its urban core, but this area exuded a serene charm, where neighbors waved over fences and kids rode bikes on sidewalks. This was where the Bennetts had built their lives, nurturing family bonds and cherished memories. Yet, beneath this tranquil surface, cracks were silently forming. James Bennett, 52, was a construction engineer at a major Houston firm. With salt and pepper hair and a warm smile, he was the family's rock, always striving to keep things steady. Colleagues called him a family man, often hearing tales of camping trips with his kids or fixing cars with his son, Ethan. Lately, though, James seemed more tired than usual. Work pressure from grueling highway projects kept him away for long hours. Sometimes, he'd sigh to his wife, "I just want to retire early, Mary, so we can have more time together." Mary, 50, a work-from-home accountant, was known in the neighborhood for her baking and enthusiasm for school fundraisers. She was the glue of the family, always preaching the value of togetherness. But in recent weeks, Mary complained of headaches, often misplacing keys or forgetting to turn off the stove. Small signs no one heeded. Ethan Bennett, 28, the eldest child, worked as a software technician for a startup in downtown Houston. Tall, with brown eyes like his father, he was the family's pride, though he carried a quiet intensity. After a breakup with a longtime girlfriend 3 months prior, Ethan grew more withdrawn, coming home late and speaking little to his parents. Still, he adored his sister Lily and her daughter Emma, often bringing gifts for the little girl. Lily, 24, a preschool teacher, lived a few miles away in a small apartment. A single mom, she raised 3-year-old Emma with boundless love. Friends described Lily as gentle and upbeat, always smiling. Recently, though, she confided to a coworker about financial worries and a strange feeling of being watched while walking from the parking lot to her home. Robert Dawson, 48, Mary's brother and uncle to Ethan and Lily, was a single man living 20 minutes away in Pasadena. A long-haul truck driver, he had a blunt personality and a knack for storytelling, often sparking laughter at family gatherings. But Robert had a darker side. 2 years ago, he was involved in a bar brawl, and though not charged, it made James wary of his brother-in-law. Lately, Robert frequently borrowed money from James, citing unstable work. "Just temporary, bro," he'd say with a forced grin, but James grew suspicious of the constant requests. Still, Mary defended her brother. "Robert's just struggling. Family helps family." Tonight's dinner was Mary's idea. She wanted a family gathering to ease recent tensions. "We need a night to laugh and forget our worries," she told James while planning the menu. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, green salad, and a Texas-style pecan pie. James agreed despite exhaustion from a long work week. Ethan arrived early, bringing a bottle of red wine to liven things up. Lily and Emma showed up with a bouquet from a nearby shop, and Robert came last, carrying a six-pack of Lone Star beer, a Texas favorite. The mood started light, filled with laughter and tales of old, like the time James and Robert nearly flipped a boat fishing at Lake Sam Rayburn. But subtle signs of trouble crept in. While Mary busied herself in the kitchen, Robert accidentally dropped a plate, snapping unusually sharply when Ethan teased, "Still clumsy as ever, Uncle Rob." Robert shot him a cold, lingering glare before laughing it off. Lily, playing with Emma, casually mentioned seeing a strange car parked near her apartment a few nights back, but brushed it off. Probably just my imagination. James, weary, drank more wine than usual, and Mary noticed his hand tremble slightly as he poured a third glass. "You okay, James?" she asked, but he nodded. "I'm fine, honey. Just need to unwind." The table was set, golden light glinting off white porcelain plates and shiny cutlery. Emma giggled as Robert made silly faces for her, and Lily snapped a family photo to capture the memory. No one knew a storm was brewing beneath the warmth. Hidden tensions from James's work stress, Ethan's withdrawal, Lily's unease, and Robert's instability wove together like invisible threads tightening around the family. The fruit knife, resting quietly by the cheese plate, its blade gleaming in the light, was just a simple tool. But in mere hours, it would become the centerpiece of a horrific tragedy, tearing apart the peace of this Houston home. As the clock struck 8:30 p.m., no one suspected the family dinner would soon turn into a bloody nightmare. On June 5, 2025, at the house on Maple Grove Street in the quiet western suburbs of Houston, Texas, the Bennett family's dinner began as a picture of warmth. By 8:30 p.m., the golden light from the kitchen glowed over the table, where plates of roast beef, mashed potatoes, and green salad sat neatly arranged. Little Emma, 3 years old, laughed as her Uncle Robert made funny faces, and red wine glimmered in James Bennett's glass. But this peace was a fragile shell, and within minutes it would shatter under a wave of horrifying events. 8:42 p.m., a sharp metallic clatter rang from the kitchen, like something heavy hitting the tile floor. Mary Bennett, 50, was slicing extra cheese for the table and turned to look. "Probably that cat making trouble again," she said with a light smile, wiping her hands on her apron and stepping to the corner of the kitchen. The fruit knife, its steel blade gleaming, lay on the cutting board beside the unfinished cheese. Mary bent down, checking under the table, finding no cat. The air stayed warm, scented with roast beef and rosemary. She stood, about to return to the table, when a shadow loomed silently behind her. No sound, only a quick, unnaturally close breath. Before Mary could turn, a strong hand gripped tight in the knife, meant for apples, slashed across her throat. A hot stream of blood sprayed out, splattering the white wall, staining the calendar marked June 5 red. Mary's scream tore through the air, brief but chilling, before she collapsed, eyes wide with panic and shock. 8:44 p.m. The scream reached the table, freezing the family. Ethan Bennett, 28, leapt from his chair, his wine glass crashing to the floor, shattering, the red liquid spreading like blood. Mom, are you okay?" he shouted, racing to the kitchen. James, 52, the father, stood trembling, heart pounding in his chest. Lily, 24, clutched little Emma, whispering, "What's happening? God help us." Emma began to cry, her tiny hands gripping her mother's shoulders. Robert, 48, uncle to Lily and Ethan, shot up, hands clenching the table's edge, face stiff, eyes darting around the room as if searching. 8:45 p.m., Ethan entered the kitchen, and the sight stopped him cold. His mother, Mary, lay on the floor, blood pooling around her head, soaking her favorite green apron. The sharp, metallic smell of blood hit him, mixing with the roast's aroma, now sickening. Mary's right hand twitched faintly, grasping at life, but her eyes were fading. Ethan dropped to his knees, yelling, "Mom, no! Mom, don't go!" He reached for her, hands shaking, smeared with blood. James rushed in behind his son, and a raw wail erupted, anguished and desperate. "Mary, no, this can't be." He fell beside his wife, cradling her limp body, blood seeping into his white shirt. 8:47 p.m. Emma's cries grew louder, blending with Lily's shouts. "Ethan! Dad! What's happening?" She held her daughter, too scared to leave her chair, eyes wide with terror. Robert stepped slowly toward the kitchen but paused at the threshold. His gaze swept the scene. The spreading blood pool, the fruit knife lying a few feet from Mary, its blade glinting with fresh red. A deadly silence hung, broken only by James's sobs and Ethan's ragged breathing. Robert stepped back, voice hoarse. "God, who did this?" No one answered. Tension choked the room, the golden light now casting a glow on a nightmarish scene, as if the house groaned under the crime's weight. 8:50 p.m. Ethan, hands and shirt blood-stained, stood, eyes wild. He stumbled, scanning for any sign of the killer. The back kitchen door stood ajar, the night breeze swaying the white curtain. "Someone was here. Someone did this," he roared, charging to the door, seeing only the dark backyard and the white fence faint under moonlight. James stayed by his wife, murmuring, "Mary, honey, don't leave me." Lily, unable to bear it, set Emma down on the chair and ran to the kitchen, but stopped short at the blood-soaked floor. She covered her mouth, gagging, tears streaming. "Mom, no, this can't be." 8:53 p.m. Robert grabbed his phone, hands trembling, and dialed 911. "Police, please, come quick. Someone's been killed. 1423 Maple Grove, Houston, hurry!" His voice cracked, panicked. While waiting, Ethan turned back, eyes frantic, scanning his father, sister, then uncle. "Who did this? Who among us?" He trailed off, unable to finish. Suspicion slithered in like a venomous snake through their minds. The knife, still on the floor, seemed to point silently. The blood's sharp stench, Emma's cries, and the flickering kitchen light painted a scene of horror. 8:58 p.m. Police sirens wailed in the distance, red and blue lights flashing at the end of Maple Grove Street. The Bennett family, or what remained, stood amid the bloody kitchen, breaths heavy, hearts racing. Mary was gone, and with her death, the safety of this home vanished. Who held the knife? Was the killer a stranger from Houston's shadows, or one of the familiar faces around the table? Tension surged, and as police car lights pierced the windows, the Bennett family's nightmare was only beginning. On June 5, 2025, at the house on Maple Grove Street, in the quiet western suburbs of Houston, Texas, a tragedy had shattered the Bennett family's peace. Mary Bennett, the 50-year-old mother, lay motionless on the kitchen floor, blood pooling around her, the sharp smell choking the air. Little Emma, 3, cried from the dining room, her sobs mixing with the broken wails of James, the 52-year-old father, still clinging to his wife's body. Ethan, 28, stood trembling, shirt stained with blood, eyes wild for answers. Lily, 24, held her daughter tight, tears streaming, whispering, "It can't be." Robert, Lily, and Ethan's 48-year-old uncle stood frozen at the kitchen doorway, face rigid. Police lights flickered in the distance, but in these chaotic minutes, a small detail would shift the entire course of the nightmare. 9:01 p.m. Sirens grew closer, red and blue lights flashing through the windows, glinting off the blood-streaked wall. Lily, still clutching Emma, tried to soothe her. "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Her voice shook, and Emma, eyes wide with fear, kept crying. As Lily stroked her daughter's soft hair, Emma stammered through sobs. "Bad person over there." Her tiny hand pointed to the back kitchen door, where the white curtains swayed in the night breeze. Lily froze, heart pounding. "What, Emma? Bad person where?" she whispered, fighting to stay calm. Emma, trembling, clung to her, repeating, "Bad person, with knife." The child's vague, innocent words cut through the haze of doubt like lightning. Lily stared at the door, where Ethan had looked and found nothing. Was someone really out there, or was Emma just scared? 9:03 p.m. Despite her fear, Lily couldn't stay silent. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and called out. "Emma says she saw someone with a knife." Ethan, near his mother's body, spun around, eyes red. "What? Emma saw something?" he asked, voice rough. James, still kneeling by Mary, looked up, face pale and tear-streaked. "Lily, are you sure? She's so little she might be wrong." But Lily, hesitant, shook her head. "I don't know, Dad, but Emma doesn't lie." She pointed to the back door. Robert, at the threshold, frowned, his gaze flicking to the door. "She's just a kid, Lily. Maybe she's scared," he said, voice scared but a bit too quick. Yet Emma's words planted a seed of doubt, and the air in the house grew thicker with tension. 9:05 p.m. Ethan, waiting no longer, rushed to the back door, shoving the curtain aside. Cool night air swept in, carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass from the yard. He scanned the darkness, seeing only the white fence and shadowy bushes under the moonlight. Then he stopped. A small, nearly invisible detail caught his eye. A fresh mud smudge, faint but clear, on the step just outside the door. It wasn't there earlier, he was sure, having helped Mary take out the trash at 7:30 p.m. "Everyone, come here. There's a footprint," Ethan shouted, voice shaking with anger and fear. Lily, still holding Emma, stepped closer, while James dragged himself forward, eyes clouded with grief. Robert followed slowly, hands in pockets, expression unreadable. 9:07 p.m. The family stared at the mud. The mark was faint, but unmistakably from a shoe, leading out to the yard. "Someone was here," Ethan whispered, fists clenched. "Someone came in, killed Mom, and ran." Lily, gripping Emma tighter, trembled. "Emma saw someone. It might be real," James, voice breaking, said. "But who? Who could do this to Mary?" "We were all here, inside." His eyes swept over Ethan, Lily, then lingered on Robert. Suspicion, unspoken, began to creep in. Robert stepped back, raising his hands. "Hold on, James. Don't look at me like that. I was at the table the whole time, you know that." But his voice rose slightly, and his eyes dodged James. 9:09 p.m. Police cars pulled up, red and blue lights flooding through the windows. 2 officers from the Houston Police Department entered, guns ready, voices firm. "Police, hands up, stay calm." Ethan, still by the back door, pointed to the mud. "Officers, look, a footprint. Someone came in and killed my mom." The first officer, a middle-aged man named Harris, knelt to examine it, while the second, a young woman named Diaz, stepped into the kitchen. She paused, drawing a breath at the sight of Mary and the blood. "My God," she murmured, then turned to the family. "Stay put. Who called 911? What happened?" Robert raised a hand. "I did, my sister's wife. She was attacked. We don't know who did it." 9:12 p.m. Officer Harris studied the footprint, frowning. "The mud's fresh. Someone might have come through here." He grabbed his radio, calling for backup and forensics. Lily, still holding Emma, repeated her daughter's words. She said she saw a bad person with a knife near the door. I don't know. I'm so scared. Officer Diaz nodded, voice gentle. Thank you, ma'am. We'll check it out. She might have seen something important. But inside, Lily wrestled with doubt. Did Emma really see the killer, or was it a child's frightened imagination? And if someone was out there, why didn't anyone hear anything before Mary's scream? Her eyes flicked to Ethan, then Robert, and a new fear sparked. What if the killer wasn't a stranger, but one of the people she loved? 9:15 p.m. The forensics team arrived, bringing lights and tools, snapping photos of the scene. The mud smudge and blood-stained fruit knife became focal points. Officer Harris turned to the family. We need you all to stay put, don't touch anything. Where was everyone when the scream happened? The simple question made the air heavier. Every glance, every move was now under scrutiny. Emma's words and the muddy print had shifted the tide, turning the cozy Houston home into a stage of suspicion where a horrifying truth waited to be uncovered. On June 5, 2025, the house on Maple Grove Street in the quiet western suburbs of Houston, Texas, had become the scene of a horrific tragedy. Mary Bennett, 50, was brutally murdered in the kitchen, blood pooling across the floor. The fruit knife turned deadly. James, her 52-year-old husband, sobbed over her body. Ethan, her 28-year-old son, shook with blood-stained hands. Lily, her 24-year-old daughter, clung to 3-year-old Emma in panic, and Robert, Mary's 48-year-old brother, stood with an unreadable gaze. Houston police arrived and forensics began their work. A fresh mud print by the back door and Emma's innocent words, "Bad person with a knife," were the first clues. Now the investigation surged forward, aiming to unmask the truth behind the slaughter. 9:20 p.m. Officers Harris and Diaz from the Houston Police Department sealed the scene. Forensics, in protective gear, photographed the blood pool, the knife, and the mud smudge on the back door step. Dr. Laura Nguyen, a forensic expert, carefully lifted the knife with gloved hands, sealing it in an evidence bag. Faint fingerprints on the blade, but blood might obscure them, she told Harris. They collected blood samples from the floor, wall, and Mary's apron, ready for DNA analysis. A small security camera, mounted at the house's front to watch the yard, was checked. Diaz reviewed the footage. From 8:00 p.m., no strange cars or people appeared near the home, only the Bennetts. If an intruder came, they walked and used the back. 9:45 p.m., the family was moved to the living room, seated apart under police watch. Officer Harris began questioning, voice calm but sharp. First, James, where were you when the scream happened? Harris asked. James, eyes red, trembled. At the table with Ethan, Lily, and Robert. Mary went to check the cat. Then, she screamed. I ran in, saw her, blood everywhere. Harris jotted notes, pressing, any family conflicts, anyone angry at your wife? James shook his head. No, everyone loved Mary. I can't fathom who'd do this. But he hesitated, his gaze flickering to Robert, his brother-in-law. 10:00 p.m. Next. Ethan. He sat rigid, hands crusted with dried blood, voice furious. I heard Mom scream, ran to the kitchen, saw her on the floor. I checked the back door, no one, but the mud print. Someone came in. Harris nodded. We're looking into it. Did you leave the table earlier? Ethan frowned. No, I was there the whole time with Dad, Lily, and Uncle Robert. Ask him. He borrows money from Dad, then argues. Harris wrote it down, eyes fixed on Ethan. Family tension began to surface, like cracks in a dam. 10:15 p.m. Lily, cradling a sleepy Emma, spoke softly. I was at the table, heard the scream, but didn't go in right away because Emma was crying. Then she said, bad person with a knife by the door. Harris tilted his head. Could she be mistaken? Anyone seem off to you? Lily shook her head, tears falling. No, but I'm scared. Mom was so kind. Who'd do this? She paused, glancing at Robert, then away. Harris noticed, but held back. Emma, too young for formal questioning, was a puzzling piece. Were her words reliable? 10:30 p.m. Robert last sat casually, but his hands clenched tight. I was at the table, heard my sister scream, called 911 right away. I didn't go in. Too shocked, he said. Harris asked, did you leave the table? Any issues with your sister or brother-in-law? Robert shrugged. No, I loved Mary. James and I had small spats over money, but nothing big. I'm a truck driver, not a killer. Harris noted Robert's averted gaze and the sweat beading on his forehead. 11:00 p.m. Forensics shared early findings. Dr. Nguyen confirmed. Blood on the knife and floor matched Mary's, but no clear fingerprints. Blood had smeared them. The mud by the door was red clay, common in Houston, with a size 10 athletic shoe print. Harris checked everyone's shoes. James and Ethan wore size 11, different soles. Robert's size 10 shoes had a similar tread, but no mud. My shoes are clean. I didn't go out, Robert said quickly. Harris ordered the shoes sampled for lab comparison. June 6th, 1:00 a.m. Preliminary autopsy results arrived. Mary died from a deep neck wound severing the carotid artery, causing rapid blood loss, estimated between 8:42 and 8:45 p.m. No defensive marks. The killer struck fast, unexpectedly. Harris huddled with the team, concluding, no forced entry. Camera shows no strangers. The killer might know the victim was inside. Suspicion turned inward. Ethan with anger and blood on his hands. Robert with money disputes and suspect shoes. Even James, despite his grief, wasn't ruled out. June 6, 10:00 a.m.e. The lab sent DNA and shoe print results. No foreign DNA on the knife, just Mary's blood. But the mud matched Robert's shoe tread, despite his claim of staying inside. Harris confronted Robert at the Houston police station. Explain the shoe print, Harris said coldly. Robert paled, stammering, I went to the yard earlier, got beer from my truck. Nothing to do with me. But records of his 2023 bar fight weakened his story. Harris stared. That's when we knew we might have our killer. Robert bowed his head, sweat dripping, silent. June 6, 12:12 p.m. Police dug deeper. Robert's phone showed a 8:20 p.m. text to an unknown number. We'll handle it soon. Harris ordered a trace on the number, keeping Robert in custody. The case cracked open. The killer wasn't likely a stranger, but someone at the table, under the warm golden light of the Bennett dinner. The horrifying truth took shape, yet one question lingered. On June 5, 2025, the house on Maple Grove Street in the quiet western suburbs of Houston, Texas, became the stage for a horrific tragedy. Mary Bennett, 50, was brutally slain in the kitchen, blood pooling across the floor, the fruit knife turned into a weapon of terror. James, her 52-year-old husband, Ethan, her son, Lily, her daughter, and little Emma, her granddaughter, were engulfed in grief and panic. Robert, Mary's brother, emerged as the prime suspect after his shoe print matched the mud by the back door and a cryptic text message surfaced. The Houston Police Department, led by Officer Harris, pressed the investigation forward. Now, the case reaches its end. Judgment, consequences, and haunting reflections. June 6, 3:00 p.m. The investigation intensified. Officer Harris and the forensic team traced the number from Robert's 8:20 p.m. text on the night of the crime. We'll handle it soon. It was a prepaid, unregistered phone, but location data placed it near Pasadena, Robert's home, on June 5. In custody, Robert faced a tense interrogation. Harris set the phone on the table, voice stern. Explain this message, Mr. Dawson. Handle what? Robert, sweating, stammered. I texted a buddy about a debt, nothing to do with my sister. His nerves and a 2023 bar fight record undercut his words. Harris stated, You have the right to remain silent per your Miranda rights. Anything you say can be used in court. Robert lowered his head, mute. June 8, 9:00 IMA. Forensics finalized their analysis. No foreign DNA was on the knife or scene, only Mary's blood. Yet the size 10 shoe print perfectly matched Robert's athletic shoes, and a tiny fiber from his jacket was found near the back door, snagged in a bush. The autopsy confirmed Mary died around 8:42 p.m. from a deep neck wound, severing the carotid artery, causing rapid blood loss. No defensive wounds suggested a swift surprise attack, possibly by someone she knew. No forced entry signs bolstered the theory. The killer was inside. Robert was charged with first-degree murder, a grave crime under Texas law. September 2025. The trial unfolded at Harris County Courthouse in Houston. Prosecutor Karen Ortiz presented the case, the shoe print, the fiber, the odd text, and money disputes between Robert and James. Robert Dawson owed James Bennett thousands, fueling tension. We believe he struck Mary to pressure his brother-in-law or hide a darker motive, Ortiz argued. Robert's lawyer David Lee countered. No DNA on the knife, no direct witness. My client's 3-year-old niece said, "Bad person with a knife, unreliable." Though Emma's words weren't court evidence, they haunted the family. James, Ethan, and Lily testified, voices breaking. James choked. Mary was my everything. Robert was her brother. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence. He wept. October 15th, 2025. After 3 weeks, the jury of 12 Houston citizens deliberated. They weighed forensics, testimony, and motive. Robert sat silent, eyes blank. After 10 hours, they delivered a verdict. Robert Dawson guilty of first-degree murder. Judge William Carter sentenced him to life without parole per Texas law. As he was led away, Robert turned to James, whispering, "I didn't do it, bro. I swear." James turned away, tears falling, silent. Lily held Emma, sobbing, while Ethan gripped his father's hand, eyes blazing with anger and pain. Aftermath. The case scarred the Bennett family deeply. James, 52, sank into depression, unable to enter the kitchen without seeing Mary in a pool of blood. He sold the Maple Grove house, moving to a small apartment in Houston's suburbs, trying to escape the horror. Ethan, 28, quit his software job, caring for his father, but doubt gnawed at him. If not Uncle Robert, then who? Lily, 24, grew vigilant, installing cameras around her apartment, fearing for Emma. Little Emma, now 3.5, woke some nights mumbling about the bad person, breaking Lily's heart. Maple Grove, once calm, buzzed with talk of the massacre, neighbors bolting doors tighter each night. December 2025, the case gripped U.S. media, featured in the Houston Chronicle and Dateline NBC. Activists pushed for tougher family violence laws in Texas, but no new bills passed. The community held a memorial for Mary at a nearby park, where dozens lit candles, laid flowers, and prayed. Lily, speaking for the family, said, "My mom loved everyone. We lost her, but her love stays with us forever." The Houston horror became a warning, highlighting the fragility of safety even at home. Reflection. Justice was served. Robert Dawson was convicted, paying for the crime. Yet the Bennett's pain lingers. James lost his wife of 30 years, Ethan and Lily their mother, and Emma grows with a faint, haunting memory of that night. The case leaves a gnawing question. What drove a loved one sharing a meal and toasting together to kill so cruelly? Did darkness always lurk in Robert, or is a secret still buried? The house on Maple Grove, once a beacon of the American dream, now holds only the memory of a bloody dinner. The scariest thought isn't a killer from the shadows outside, but the chance it came from the place you trust most. Family. Houston and the Bennetts will never forget June 5, 2025, when warm golden lights turned red with tragedy.